30 years of perfect driving, and the owner's son called us replaceable steering wheels while slashing our pay to fund his lavish lifestyle. He thought he owned us. He didn't know I had the loyalty of the 9 best drivers in the state and the direct number to his biggest client. We didn't just quit. We took the multi-million-dollar contract with us and left him bankrupt. Before this story continues, tell me where are you watching from today and what's the temperature? I'm reading every comment. Now, buckle up because you're about to see exactly how a greedy heir lost an entire empire in one weekend. The break room at Advanced Logistics always smelled the same stale coffee, diesel fumes, and the kind of industrial cleaner that burned your nose but never really cleaned anything. It was a smell I'd known for 15 years back when Old Man Vance ran the place. But today, the air felt heavier, thicker. I sat in the back, nursing a lukewarm cup of black coffee. At 54, I've learned that the back of the room is the best place to be when management calls a mandatory all hands. You can see everyone else's reaction before the boss sees yours. Thomas, Adrian Scott whispered, sliding into the plastic chair next to me. Adrian was a former accountant who turned to trucking after a midlife crisis. He still kept his logs with the precision of a forensic auditor. You see the memo? Restructuring. That word never means bonuses. I nodded, keeping my eyes on the podium at the front. I saw it. Derek's been itching to put his mark on the company since his dad passed. Derek Vance. The son. The heir. The problem. He burst through the double doors 3 minutes late, flanked by an HR rep who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Derek was 32, wearing a suit that cost more than my first rig, and he walked with the unearned confidence of a man who'd never changed a tire in the rain. All right, settle down, Derek announced, clapping his hands together. The sound was sharp and irritating in the quiet room. There were about 20 of us there, the core fleet, the veterans, the ones who moved the high-value freight. Jonathan Wright, sitting 2 rows up, crossed his arms. His biceps were the size of tree trunks, and he had a fuse shorter than a burnt match. I could see his neck turning red already. I've been looking at the numbers, Derek began, not bothering with a greeting. He tapped a remote, and a projector screen flickered to life behind him. It showed a graph with a red line dipping slightly. Efficiency is down. Overhead is up. My father ran this business with his heart. I'm going to run it with my brain. A murmur went through the room. Old Man Vance knew every driver's kid's name. He'd driven routes himself on Christmas so guys could be home. Derek probably couldn't find the ignition switch on a Peterbilt. The market is shifting, Derek continued, pacing the stage. We're bleeding money on maintenance, fuel surcharges, and personnel costs. He lingered on that last phrase. Personnel costs. I took a slow sip of my coffee. It tasted bitter. Beside me, Adrian adjusted his glasses, his eyes narrowing at the screen. That chart is misleading, Adrian muttered under his breath. He's including capital expenditures in the operating costs. He's cooking the visuals to make us look less profitable. Why? I whispered back. To justify what comes next, Adrian said grimly. I looked around at the faces of my team. Jax, the head mechanic, was wiping grease from his hands with a rag, looking worried. Mia and Miles, the husband and wife team we all treated like our own kids, were holding hands tightly. They had just bought a house based on the projected overtime Derek's father had promised them. We need to be leaner, Derek said, his voice rising. We need to be competitive. And that starts with understanding what this company actually is. He paused for dramatic effect, looking out at us with a sneer that he probably thought looked authoritative. You guys drive the trucks, he said. That's it, the trucks do the work. The logistics software does the routing, the contracts do the earning. I set my cup down. The plastic made a hollow thud on the table. So, Derek smiled, a cold, shark-like expression. I'd made some decisions. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the vending machine in the hallway. Effective immediately, Derek said, clicking to the next slide. We are moving from a mileage plus percentage pay model to a flat mileage rate. The numbers flashed up on the screen. I didn't need Adrian's calculator to know what I was looking at. It was a 20% cut across the board. For the regional routes, the Amazon runs we did that required tight deadlines and perfect handling it was closer to 30%. Whoa, hold on! Jonathan Wright stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the linoleum. You can't just slash rates like that. We have contracts. We have agreements. Agreements made with previous management, Derek said dismissively, waving a hand as if swatting a fly. At will employment, Jonathan. Read your handbook. If you don't like the new rate, you're free to explore the market. But I assure you, you won't find better with your specific skill sets. Specific skill sets? I spoke up, my voice low but carrying across the room. I didn't stand up. I didn't need to. You mean 30 years of accident-free driving? You mean knowing how to navigate a blizzard in the Rockies without losing a pallet? You mean the relationships we have with the receiving managers? Derek chuckled. It was a dry, condescending sound. He looked at me like I was a piece of vintage furniture that had gone out of style. Thomas, right? He asked, though he knew exactly who I was. Look, I respect the tenure. I do. But let's be real. The trucks have GPS. They have lane assist. They have automatic braking. The job isn't what it was 20 years ago. He leaned forward against the podium, invading our space. Drivers aren't the asset anymore, he said. And I will never forget the look in his eyes when he said it. The trucks are the assets. The contracts are the assets. You guys, you're just steering wheels. You're interchangeable parts. If one breaks, I buy another one. Just steering wheels. The insult hit the room like a physical blow. I saw Mia flinch. I saw Jax look down at his scarred, oil-stained hands that had kept Derek's fleet running on a shoestring budget for 6 months because Derek refused to approve new parts. So, Derek clapped his hands again, signaling the end of the discussion. New rates are effective for this current pay period. Sign the acknowledgement forms on your way out. If you don't sign, don't bother cranking your engine on Monday. He turned his back on us and started talking to the HR rep, dismissing 20 livelihoods in under 10 minutes. Jonathan looked ready to charge the stage. I reached out and grabbed his forearm. His muscle was rock hard, trembling with rage. Not here, I said softly. Not now. He called us steering wheels, Thomas. Jonathan hissed, spit flying. He's cutting my pay by $1,500 a month. I have alimony. I have a kid in college. I know, I said, standing up slowly. My knees popped. I know, but getting arrested for assault doesn't pay the tuition. So what do we do? Mia asked, her voice trembling. She looked at me, eyes wide and wet. Thomas, we can't afford this. We literally can't afford this. I looked at Derek, who was laughing at something the HR rep said. He wasn't just greedy. He was cruel. He enjoyed the power. He enjoyed making us feel small. We signed the papers, I said, my voice flat. What? Adrian looked at me, shocked. You're rolling over? We signed the papers, I repeated, staring at Derek's back. We buy time, and then we remind him that a steering wheel controls the direction of the vehicle. I walked out of the break room, grabbing a form from the stack. I signed it with a pen that was running out of ink. Thomas Allen. I wasn't signing a contract. I was signing a declaration of war. The rain was hammering against the windshield of my Kenworth, a rhythmic drumming that usually helped me think. Today, it just felt like static. It was Friday, 2 weeks after the steering wheel speech, and the first direct deposits under the new structure had just hit. I was parked at a rest stop off I-95, waiting out a storm before the final leg into Baltimore. I pulled up my banking app on my phone. I stared at the number. I refreshed the page. The number didn't change. It wasn't 20% less. It was nearly 40% less. No, I whispered. That's not right. I pulled out my physical logbook, the one I kept despite the electronic logging devices, LLDODs, mandated by the government. I always kept a paper backup. Old habits die hard, and they save your hide. I calculated the mileage. 2,450 miles this week. At the new slashed rate, it should have been $1,225, roughly. The deposit was for $150. My phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again, and again. The group chat we had set up, the steering wheels, was exploding. Jonathan, did anyone else get shorted? I'm missing $400. Mia? They took out for idle time. We were stuck in traffic on the bridge. Adrian, Thomas, check your detention pay. It's gone. All of it. I tapped on the detailed pay stub in the company portal. Adrian was right. The 2 hours I spent waiting at the Amazon warehouse because their dock was full, marked as unpaid break, the fuel bonus, gone. The safety incentive, gone. The safety incentive? Derek hadn't just cut the rate, He was skimming the margins. He was charging us for things that were out of our control. He was stealing. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just restructuring. This was a desperate cash grab. You don't nickel and dime your best earners unless you need cash now. I hit the call button for Adrian. He picked up on the first ring. "I see it, Thomas," Adrian said, his voice clipped and professional, but I could hear the underlying fury. "I've been running the math. He's altered the mileage calculations. He's using as the crow flies zip-to-zip distance instead of practical route miles. On a 500-mile run, that shaves off about 40 miles of pay." "That's illegal," I said. "Or at least, it's a breach of the standard industry practice." "It gets worse," Adrian said. "I called Jax. Derek canceled the parts order for the fleet maintenance. Jax is using duct tape and prayers to keep the reefers running. Thomas, he's looting the company. He's stripping the copper out of the walls." I looked out at the rain. I thought about the Amazon contract. The regional logistics manager, Mr. Henderson, was a stickler for reliability. If our trucks broke down because Derek wouldn't buy parts, we would get the blame. Our CDLs would be tarnished. "He thinks we're trapped," I said. "He thinks we live paycheck to paycheck, so we have to take it." "Most of us do," Adrian said quietly. "Not all of us," I said, "and not for long." "What are you thinking?" I watched a drop of water race down the glass. "I'm thinking it's time to call in a favor," I said. "And I'm thinking we need to have a meeting, not in the break room, somewhere he can't hear us." "The diner on Route 9? Tonight," I said. "Tell everyone, even Jax. We're not just drivers anymore, Adrian." "No, no," I said, starting me inners. "No," I said, starting me engine. The diesel rumble felt good beneath my feet. We're the liability he forgot to insure. The rain hadn't let up. If anything, it had turned into a deluge, the kind that washes the oil slick right off the asphalt. We met at Big Ed's, a diner off Route 9 that had seen better days in the 80s and hadn't changed the menu since. It was neutral ground, far enough from the depot that Derek's snitches wouldn't spot our rigs. I pulled my truck into the back row, sliding in next to Jonathan's Peterbilt. The chrome on his grill was usually polished to a mirror shine, but tonight it was dull with road grime. It felt symbolic. Inside, we took over 3 booths in the corner. The waitress, a woman named Barb who had poured me coffee for 20 years, took one look at our faces and just brought 2 pots without asking. "He shorted me $500, Jonathan said, slamming his fist onto the table. Silverware jumped. $500, Thomas. That's my alimony payment. That's my grocery bill." "I lost $300, Mia said, her voice small. She was sitting next to Miles, clutching a napkin. "He docked us for the time we spent waiting for the mechanic to fix the reefer unit. He said it was preventable downtime." "How is a compressor failure preventable by the driver?" "It's not," Jax rumbled from the next booth. He looked exhausted, grease permanently etched into the lines of his face. "And it's gonna get worse. I saw the new maintenance directives today. No more OEM parts. We're using junkyard salvage for critical repairs. Brake lines, compressors, even tires. He wants me to retread tires that are already bald." The table went silent. Driving on bad tires in this weather wasn't just cheap. It was a death sentence. "He's gambling with our lives to save pennies," Adrian said, pushing his glasses up his nose. He had a notebook open, filled with calculations. I ran the numbers on the fleet's operating costs versus the revenue from the Amazon contract. Even with the pay cuts, the math doesn't work. He's bleeding cash somewhere else. The company isn't just restructuring, it's hemorrhaging. "So what?" Jonathan growled. "We quit? We walk if we lose our seniority. We lose our bonuses. We lose everything. If we stay," I said, speaking for the first time, "we lose anyway. We lose our money slowly. Then we lose our licenses when the trucks fail inspection. And finally, one of us loses their life on an icy pass." I looked around the circle, 9 faces, the best drivers in the state. Between us, we had over 10 million safe miles. We were the backbone of Vance Logistics. Derek thought he had cut the fat, but he had actually isolated the muscle. "We don't just quit," I said, leaning forward. "We leave. But we don't leave empty-handed." "What does that mean?" Miles asked. "It means we take the work with us," I said. Jonathan laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "You think Amazon is going to sign a contract with 9 guys in a diner? We don't have trucks. We don't have authority. We don't have insurance." "Not yet," I said, "but we have the one thing Derek doesn't." "What's that?" "We have the relationship," I said. "And I have a number. I haven't dialed in 5 years. I stood up, tossing a $10 bill on the table for the coffee. Wait here, I said. I need to make a call. I stepped out into the rain, finding shelter under the overhang of the diner's entrance. The air was cold, smelling of wet pine and exhaust. My heart was hammering against my ribs. This was the point of no return. I scrolled through my contacts until I found it. Sarah Jenkins. 5 years ago, Sarah was a 22-year-old dispatcher at Vance Logistics. She was sharp, organized, and terrifyingly efficient. But she had made a mistake, a routing error that cost the company a few $1,000s. Old man Vance was on vacation, and the interim manager, a guy who didn't last long, wanted to fire her to cover his own incompetence. I had stepped in. I took the blame for the error, claimed I had misread the log, and absorbed the write-up. I knew I was untouchable back then, and I knew she needed the job. She never forgot it. She left 2 years later to start her own brokerage firm, and last I heard, she was a shark in the logistics world. I pressed call. It rang twice. Thomas? Her voice was crisp, clear, and surprised. I haven't seen that name pop up since Christmas. Hello, Sarah, I said. I hope I'm not disturbing you. For the man who saved my career. Never, she said. I could hear the click-clack of a keyboard in the background. She was still working at 9:00 p.m. What's going on? I heard rumors about Old Man Vance passing. I'm sorry. Thank you, I said. But the rumors about the son are worse. Derek, she sighed. The visionary. I've seen the rates he's posting on the load boards. He's underbidding everyone. Desperate moves. It's worse than that, I said. He cut driver pay by 40%. He's cooking the books on mileage, and he's forcing the mechanic to use salvage parts on the Amazon fleet. The typing stopped. He's compromising the Amazon fleet, Sarah asked, her voice dropping an octave. Thomas, that contract has a strict ISO safety compliance clause. If he's using salvage parts, he's in breach of contract right now. I know, I said. That's why I'm calling. We're done, Sarah. Me, Jonathan, Adrian, the whole core team. We're walking. Good for you, she said. You guys can get hired anywhere in 24 hours. We don't want to get hired, I said, watching the rain strike the pavement. We want the contract. There was a long silence on the line. A semi-truck roared past on the highway, shaking the ground beneath my feet. You want to steal the Amazon regional run from Vance Logistics? She asked slowly. We don't want to steal it, I corrected. We want to rescue it. Derek is going to crash it. We're the ones who actually do the work. We know the routes, the dock managers, the schedules. We are the service. But we need a broker. We need an authority. You need a fixer, she said. I need you, Thomas, she said, and I could hear a smile in her voice. Do you know why Derek is cutting costs so aggressively? Greed. Gambling, she said. I have friends in finance. Derek leveraged the company assets, the trucks, the trailers, the depot to cover bad investments in crypto and sports betting. He doesn't own those trucks, Thomas. The bank does. He's one missed payment away from liquidation. My grip tightened on the phone. So the fleet is a house of cards. A house of cards in a windstorm, she confirmed. If you guys walk, he misses the delivery windows. If he misses the windows, he loses the contract. If he loses the contract, the bank calls the loan. It's a domino effect. Can you help us set up a new authority? I asked. Can you get us in front of the regional manager? Mr. Mester? Henderson? Sarah laughed. I had lunch with him yesterday. He's been complaining that Vance's on-time rate has dropped 4% since the funeral. Thomas, if you bring me 9 drivers and a plan, I won't just get you the contract. I'll help you bury Derek Vance. I have the drivers, I said. We're at Big Ed's. Stay there, she said. I'm 40 minutes away. Order me a coffee. Black. By the time Sarah walked into Big Ed's, the mood at our table had shifted from despair to a nervous, electric energy. She didn't look like the scared kid I remembered. She wore a sharp blazer, carried a leather briefcase, and walked with the kind of purpose that made people get out of her way. She slid into the booth opposite me, placing a tablet on the sticky table. Gentleman Mia, she nodded. I've been busy on the drive over. She tapped the screen. A digital document appeared. This, she said, pointing to the header, is the incorporation paperwork for a new LLC. I'm calling it Prime Route Logistics for now, but you can change it. I can file this tonight, By Monday morning, you have a dot number and operating authority. That's fast, Adrian said, impressed, but authority is just paper. We don't have trucks. If we walk away from Vance, we leave the rigs behind. Do you? Sarah asked, arching an eyebrow. She looked at me. Thomas, tell them what I told you. Derek doesn't own the trucks, I said to the group. The bank does. He's leveraged everything. Here is the situation, Sarah explained, bringing up a spreadsheet. I know the leasing company Derek uses for his trailers. I also know the rental agency he uses for the overflow tractors. His contracts with them are month to month on the overflow, but more importantly, I know where we can get 9 power units by Sunday night. Where? Jonathan asked. Ryder Commercial Rentals has a fleet sitting in Allentown, she said. I reserved them 10 minutes ago under my brokerage's credit line. They aren't pretty plain white wrappers, but they run and they pass inspection. So we rent trucks, Jack said, rubbing his chin. That's expensive. It is, Sarah admitted. But here is the life twist, as they say. I just sent an email to Mr. Henderson's personal assistant. I flagged a critical compliance failure regarding the Vance fleet maintenance. You ratted him out. Jonathan grinned. I protected the client, she corrected. Mr. Henderson is going to demand a spontaneous audit of the Vance fleet logs and maintenance records on Monday morning. When he sees that Derek is using salvage parts and duct tape, he'll void the contract, Adrian finished. Immediately, Sarah said, and he will need a carrier to step in that same day to cover the regional distribution. He won't have time to bid it out. He'll need a trusted partner who knows the route. She looked at us. He won't care about the name on the door of the truck, she said. He cares about the drivers behind the wheel. If Thomas Allen and his team show up in white rental trucks, holding the manifest, who do you think he's going to trust? The guy in the office with the gambling debt? Or the 9 people who've delivered his packages for a decade? It's a mutiny, Mia whispered, but she was smiling. It's a hostile takeover, Sarah said, but we have to move fast. You need to get your personal gear out of those Vance trucks tonight. If Derek gets wind of this, he'll lock the yard. He won't know, I said. He's in Vegas for the weekend. He posted it on Instagram. Sarah's eyes lit up. Perfect. Then we have 48 hours to build a trucking company from scratch. I looked at my team. One condition, I said. What? Sarah asked. We don't just take the driving jobs, I said. We own the company. Equal shares. No more bosses. No more steering wheels. We run it like a co-op. Sarah smiled. She tapped the tablet again. Article 4, Section 2, Employee-Owned Cooperative, she read. Way ahead of you, Thomas. She held out her hand. Are we doing this? I looked at Jonathan, then Adrian, then Mia and Jax. Every single one of them nodded. I shook her hand. We're doing it. Good, she said, closing the briefcase. Then finish your coffee. We have a fleet to steal. Saturday morning broke with the sky the color of bruised iron. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with humidity. I pulled my beat-up Ford F-150 into the lot of the Ryder Commercial Rental Facility in Allentown at 7:00 a.m. sharp. I wasn't the first one there. Jonathan was already leaning against the chain-link fence, smoking a cigarette, staring at the row of trucks lined up like soldiers in fresh snow uniforms. They were stark white. No logos, no stripes. No Vance Logistics decals featuring the golden eagle Derek insisted on putting on every mud flap. Just clean, blinding white cabs. They look like ghosts, Jonathan said as I approached. He crushed a cigarette under his boot. No history, no baggage. That's the point, I said. One by one, the rest of the team arrived. Mia and Miles pulled up in their station wagon. Jax arrived in his tow truck, which he used as a personal vehicle. Adrian was last, looking like he was heading to a tax audit rather than a truck heist, clutching a folder of papers. Sarah was waiting inside the office. She walked out with a keyring that looked heavy enough to anchor a boat. 9 units, she said, tossing the keys to me. 2024 Freightliner Cascadiers, Detroit DD-15 engines, automated manual transmissions. They aren't the pedal-pels you're used to, but they're efficient. And more importantly, the leasing agreement is in the name of Prime Route Logistics. I handed the keys out. It felt ceremonial. When I gave Mia hers, her hand was shaking. This is real, she whispered. We're really doing this. We need to inspect them, Jack said, his voice gruff. I don't trust rental maintenance any more than I trust Derek. We spent the next 2 hours going over every inch of those trucks. We checked the fluids, thumping the tires, testing the air brakes. The yard echoed with the hiss of air release valves and the roar of diesel engines turning over. "They're clean," Jax announced, wiping his hands on a rag. "Brake pads are 90%. Tires are fresh. No leaks. These things are road-ready." Good," Sarah said, checking her watch. "Because we have a meeting at noon, and we need to look like a fleet. But first, we need to deal with the other fleet." "The Vance trucks?" I asked. "You can't leave your gear in them," Sarah said. "If we pull this off on Monday, Derek is going to lock that yard down tight. Anything you leave in those cab CB radios, fridges, tools, photos of your kids, you lose." "He's in Vegas," I reminded her. "His security guard isn't," Jonathan pointed out. "Old Barney. He sits in the shack and watches TV." "Barney likes donuts," I said. "And he likes the Giants. The game starts at 1. "Then we hit the Vance yard at 1:30, I said. "We go in, we clean out our lives, and we leave him nothing but the plastic." Mr. Henderson didn't do business in boardrooms on weekends. He did business at the driving range. Sarah had set it up. She knew Henderson's routine. He hit a bucket of balls every Sunday afternoon at the Oakwood Club to blow off steam. We didn't have memberships, but Sarah walked past the front desk like she owned the place, and me, Adrian, and Jonathan followed her in our best Sunday clothes, which for me meant clean jeans and a collared shirt. Henderson was a tall man with a swing that was all power and no finesse. He sliced a ball into the net and cursed. "Mr. Henderson," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the thwack of clubs. He turned, squinting against the sun. "Sarah? I thought we had a call scheduled for Tuesday." "We do," she said, "but the market moves fast, and I brought some friends." She gestured to us. Henderson's eyes widened slightly as he recognized me. "Thomas Allen," he said. He didn't offer a hand, but he nodded. "I've seen your name on the manifests. Best on-time record in the Northeast." "Thank you, sir," I said. "And Jonathan Wright," he continued, looking at Jonathan. "You run the heavy haul to Pittsburgh." "Yes, sir," Jonathan said, surprisingly polite. "What is this?" Henderson asked, leaning on his driver. "A union negotiation. Because I don't employ you directly. It's a rescue mission," Sarah said. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a file. It contained the photos Jax had taken. Cracked brake drums, bald tires, and the purchase orders for salvage arts. Henderson took the file. He flipped through the photos, his face hardening with every page. "These are current?" he asked. "Taken yesterday," Sarah said. "Derek Vance has cut the maintenance budget to 0. He's using junkyard parts on trucks carrying your high-value electronics." Henderson threw the file down on the bench. "I explicitly told him after the last review, ISO 9001 compliance is non-negotiable." "He's gambling, Mr. Don." "Henderson," Adrian spoke up. "Literally, he's leveraged the fleet. If one of those trucks goes down and you claim insurance, the bank will seize the assets. Your freight will be impounded as collateral." Henderson rubbed his temples. "I have 40 containers sitting in the port of Newark right now. They need to move Monday morning. If Vance is insolvent." "He's not insolvent yet," I said, "but he will be when his drivers don't show up." Henderson looked at me sharply. "You're striking?" "We're resigning," I said. "All 9 of the core team. Effective tonight." "You're leaving me stranded," Henderson said, his voice rising. "No, sir," I said. "We're offering you a life raft." Sarah stepped forward. "Prime Route Logistics, a newly formed entity, fully insured, compliant, and staffed by the 9 drivers you already trust. We have 9 power units ready to roll. We can pick up the Newark loads at 0600 Monday." Henderson looked from Sarah to me. He looked at the photos of the broken trucks. He looked at the golf ball he had just sliced. "You have trucks?" he asked. "Sitting in Allentown," I said. "And the drivers?" "Standing right here," Jonathan said. Henderson sighed. He pulled a cigar from his pocket but didn't light it. "I can't void Vance's contract without cause," he said. "Legal would kill me." "The cause is the Monday morning pickup," Sarah said. "If Vance Logistics fails to have trucks at the port by 8:00 a.m., they are in default." Section 14, paragraph B, failure to perform. "You have the right to assign the load to a spot carrier." Henderson smiled. A slow, shark-like grin. "And you just happen to be the spot carrier available." "We're in the neighborhood," I said. "Fine," Henderson said. If Vance's trucks aren't at the gate at 8:00 a.m., the load is yours. But if you miss a single delivery window, Thomas, I will bury your new company so deep, not even Google will find it. We won't miss, I said. We called it the Friday of Silence, but really, it was the code name for the entire weekend operation. It referred to the discipline we needed to maintain. No social media posts, no angry text to dispatch, no leaking the plan to the junior drivers who might rat us out to Derek for a bonus. Sunday night was the final phase. The Vance logistics yard was dark. The security guard, Barney, was exactly where we predicted his sleep, in the shack with the blue light of a TV flickering on his face. We rolled in using our personal cars. We parked in the employee lot just like any other shift, but we weren't clocking in. I walked to my truck. Truck 404. It was a 2018 Kenworth I had driven for 6 years. I knew every rattle, every sweet spot in the gears. It felt like betraying a horse to leave it behind. I climbed into the cab. It smelled like my Life coffee and Pine air freshener. I worked quickly. I unbolted my CB radio. I took down the picture of my daughter from the visor. I grabbed my specialized seat cushion, my heavy-duty flashlight, and the inverter I had installed myself. In 10 minutes, the cab was stripped. It looked sterile, dead. I climbed down and walked to the office. The drop box was a metal slot in the door for keys and paperwork. One by one, the others appeared out of the darkness. Jonathan had a duffel bag of gear over his shoulder. Mia was wiping a tear from her eye. She was sentimental about her truck, even if she hated the boss. "This is it," Adrian whispered. "Once the keys go in the box, there's no going back." "Good," Jonathan said. I took my keyring. I looked at the plastic tag. Unit 404, T. Allen. I dropped it into the slot. Clink. Jonathan dropped his. Clink. Maya, Miles, Jax. Adrian. 9 keys. 9 clinks in the silence of the night. We stood there for a moment, listening. The yard was silent. The trucks were silent. The company was essentially dead. It just didn't know it yet. "Let's go," I said, turning my back on 30 years of history. "We have an early start tomorrow." "Does Derek know yet?" Mia asked as we walked to our cars. I checked my phone. A text from the automated dispatch system: "Load assignment, Newark Port, 0600. Confirm receipt." I didn't reply. "No," I said. "He thinks we're just steering wheels. He thinks we'll be there. He's gonna wake up to a ghost town," Jonathan grinned. "He's gonna wake up broke," I corrected. We got into our cars and drove away, leaving the Vance fleet parked in perfect, silent rows. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was the calm before the storm. 4:30 a.m. is a time of day that belongs to bakers, new parents, and truck drivers. It's a quiet, blue-black hour where the world feels suspended. But at the rented lot in Allentown, the air was alive with the deep, throaty rumble of 9 diesel engines idling in unison. It was a sound I'd heard for 30 years, but this time it sounded different. It sounded like freedom. "Radio check," I said into the new handheld CB Sarah had issued us. The white Freightliners didn't have the built-in Cobras we were used to, but these worked. "Loud and clear, Unit 1, Jonathan's voice crackled back. He had designated himself Unit 2, naturally. "Unit 3, rolling," Adrian chimed in. "Unit 4, green," Mia said. Her voice was steady, the nerves from the diner gone. She was in the zone. Sarah was walking down the line of white trucks in the pre-dawn mist, slapping magnetic decals onto the doors. She had printed them overnight at a 24-hour shop. They were simple black letters on a white background. Prime. Road Logistics. US. Number 39842DN1. "It's not gold leaf," she shouted up to me as she stuck the magnet on my door, "but it's legal." I looked down at her from the cab. "It looks like the best thing I've ever seen." "Here," she said, handing up a clipboard through the open window. "Bill of lading templates, insurance cards, and the port entry authorization. Mr. Day." Henderson emailed it at midnight. I took the clipboard. My hands were vibrating slightly, not from the engine, but from the adrenaline. We were about to do something that, in the trucking world, was akin to a coup. "Remember," I said into the radio, addressing the whole team, "we are professionals. We drive the limit. We check our mirrors. We treat every pallet like it's crystal. Today isn't about speed. It's about precision. We show Henderson that the quality of the service wasn't the truck, it was the driver." "Roger that," Jax's voice came through. Even the mechanic was driving today to fill the quota. I released the parking brake. The hiss of air was sharp and clean. "Let's roll," I said. One by one, the 9 white ghosts pulled out of the lot. We hit the highway in a convoy, keeping a tight formation. The sun was just starting to crack the horizon, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. As we merged onto I-78 East, heading toward the port of Newark, my phone started to buzz. I glanced at the screen mounted on the dash. "Dispatch, automated, driver 404, you are late for start. Please confirm status." "Dispatch, automated driver 404, immediate response required." Then, a text from the night shift dispatcher, a good kid named Leo who didn't know what was happening. "Leo Thomas, where are you? The GPS shows the truck is still in the yard. Are you sick?" I didn't answer. I just shifted gears, feeling the torque pull me forward. We weren't just leaving a job, we were leaving a sinking ship, and we had taken the lifeboats with us. "Ignore the phones," I said over the radio. "Eyes on the road. We have a delivery window to hit." By 7:00 a.m., the Panic Advanced Logistics had shifted from digital to analog. I knew exactly what was happening, because Sarah had a friend inside the office, the receptionist, Brenda, who had been there almost as long as I had. Brenda was texting Sarah play-by-play updates. Sarah, over radio, update from HQ. The night dispatcher called Derek in Vegas. He didn't pick up. They called the hotel. He's awake now. I could picture it perfectly. Derek Vance, hung over in a high thread count sheet in a suite overlooking the strip, reaching for his phone and seeing 50 missed calls. "Sarah," he's screaming. Apparently, he checked the fleet GPS and saw that not a single truck has moved an inch. He thinks it's a glitch in the software. He wishes it was a glitch, Jonathan chuckled over the channel. "Sarah, he's calling the yard. He just got hold of Barney the guard." I smiled. Barney was a good man, but he wasn't going to lie for Derek. "What did Barney say?" I asked. Sarah Barney told him the trucks are there, all of them, parked in a row. "But the employee lot is empty, and the keys?" Adrian asked. Sarah Barney just checked the drop box. He told Derek. "It sounds like a janitor with a bag of change in there. 9 sets of keys, 9 resignation letters taped to them." The radio went silent for a moment. We all let that sink in. The sheer magnitude of what we had done. My phone rang again. This time, the caller ID didn't say dispatch. It said Derek Vance Mobile. I let it ring. It rang again immediately. "Unit 1, I said into the radio. "The king is calling. Put him on speaker," Jonathan urged. "I want to hear him beg." "No," I said. "We maintain radio discipline. Let him sweat." I let the call go to voicemail. Then a text came through. "Derek, Tumas. Pick up. Where are you? If this is a strike, you are hall fired. I will sue you for damages. Pick up now." "He's threatening legal action," I told the group. "On what grounds?" Adrian asked, his accountant brain kicking in. "We're at will employees. We gave notice effective immediately and returned company property. We haven't breached any contract because we never signed non-competes." "He doesn't know that," I said. "He's used to bullying people who don't read the fine print." Sarah update. "He's trying to call spot drivers. He's offering double pay for anyone who can get to the yard in 30 minutes. "Good luck with that," Jax laughed. "It's Monday morning. Every decent driver is already under a load. The only guys sitting at home are the ones with DUI suspensions or bad backs. And even if he finds drivers," I added, "he doesn't have the maintenance logs." Henderson's audit team is scheduled to arrive at the Vance yard at 9:00 a.m. "It's a perfect storm," Sarah said. "And he's standing in the middle of it without an umbrella." We were 10 miles out from the port. The skyline of Newark was rising ahead of us, gray and industrial. "Tighten up formation," I ordered. "We want Henderson to see us arrive together, a wall of white." The port of Newark is a chaotic beast. Cranes loom overhead like metallic dinosaurs, and the air smells of salt water and diesel. The queue for the container terminal was already backing up, but we had pre-clearance passes that Sarah had printed. At 7:55 a.m., 5 minutes before the contract deadline, we rolled toward Gate 4. Usually, there would be a line of Vance Logistics trucks. Here, the signature blue cabs with the gold eagle. Today, there were none. Standing near the gatehouse, wearing a high-visibility vest over his suit, was Mr. Henderson. He was flanked by 2 port authority officers and a man holding a clipboard, the port manager. Henderson was checking his watch. He looked tense. He had bet his own reputation on this gambit. If we didn't show, 40 containers of high-priority electronics would sit on the dock, racking up thousands in demurrage fees every hour. There he is, I whispered to myself. I downshifted, letting the engine growl as I approached the gate. Behind me, 8 other trucks mirrored the move. We pulled up in a perfect line. I hissed the air brakes and rolled down the window. Henderson looked up at the plain white truck. He looked at the magnetic sign on the door, Pierheim, Replaceable. Then he looked at me. A slow smile spread across his face. It was the look of a man who had just sunk a hole in one. "Morning, Mr. Henderson," I said, leaning out. "Prime Route Logistics reporting for pickup. 9 units ready for immediate loading." He walked over to the cab, ignoring the confused port manager. "You're cutting it close, Thomas," he said, but his tone was warm. 5 minutes to spare," I said. "Traffic on the turnpike." "Where are the previous carriers?" the port manager asked, looking at his manifest. "I have Vance Logistics listed here." Henderson turned to the official. "Vance Logistics is in breach of contract as of." He checked his watch. 4 minutes from now. "They failed to present equipment. I am exercising my right to assign the load to a spot carrier." He pointed at my truck. "Authorize prime route," Henderson commanded. "They have the pickup numbers." The port manager shrugged and stamped the paper. "If you say so. Gate 4, Lane 2. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Derek. "Derek Thomas, please. I'm at the airport. I'm flying back. Just tell the guys to get in the trucks. We can talk about the pay cut. I'll restore 10%. Please." I looked at the text. Restore 10%. He was still trying to negotiate. He still thought he had leverage. He didn't realize the building had already collapsed. I handed the phone to Sarah, who was riding shotgun in my cab to handle the paperwork. "Do you want to reply?" she asked. "No," I said, putting the truck into gear. "Let him talk to the voicemail." We rolled through the gate, the heavy steel containers waiting for us. As the crane lowered the first box onto my chassis, a 40-foot container worth $500,000, I felt a physical weight lift off my shoulders. We had done it. We had the cargo. We had the contract. But as I pulled away from the crane, I saw a black sedan screech to a halt outside the security fence. A man in a disheveled suit jumped out, waving his arms frantically at the guard. It wasn't Derek. It was his lawyer. "Sarah," I said, nodding toward the fence. "Company. Let him wave," Sarah said, opening her laptop. "I just got the confirmation from the bank. They've been notified of the contract default. The asset seizure notice is being filed right now." She hit enter. "Checkmate," she whispered. The funny thing about desperation is that it makes a man deaf. Derek didn't hear no. He didn't hear "it's over." He only heard the sound of his own empire crumbling, and he was screaming to drown it out. We were unloading at the Amazon distribution center in Robbinsville just after noon. The white trucks were lined up at the docks, the warehouse team moving with practiced efficiency. It was smooth. It was professional. It was everything Vance Logistics used to be. Then a black Mercedes tore into the lot, bypassing security by tailgating a delivery van. It screeched to a halt near my truck. Derek Vance fell out of the driver's seat. He looked like a wreck shirt, untucked, eyes wild, the Vegas tan looking more like a sickly flush. "Thomas!" he shouted, running toward me. 2 warehouse security guards started moving toward him, but I held up a hand. "Let him speak. Let the team see this." "You can't do this," Derek panted, grabbing the door handle of my rental truck. "This is my contract. These are my routes." "They were your routes," I said calmly, standing on the running board looking down at him. "You lost them at 8:01 a.m. when you failed to perform." "I was in the air," he yelled. "I was coming back to fix it. Look, Thomas, I'll match whatever they're paying you. I'll give you a 5% raise on the old rate. Just give me the manifest back. I need to scan it into my system." "We don't work for you, Derek," Jonathan said, walking over. He looked massive next to his former boss. "We work for Prime Route Logistics, and we own it." Derek looked between us, confused. "Prime Route? What is that? Who owns it?" "We do," Mia said, joining the circle. "All of us. Equal shares." Derek let out a hysterical laugh. You guys can't run a company. Your steering wheels. You need me. You need the capital. You need the insurance." Sarah stepped out from behind my truck. She was holding a tablet. "Actually, Derek," she said, her voice ice cold, "we have the capital. We have the insurance. And as of 10 minutes ago, we have the exclusive regional carrier agreement with Amazon. Derek went pale. Sarah, you did this. You did this, she corrected. I just filed the paperwork. And by the way, the bank just called me. They saw the contract transfer on the public register. They're calling your loan, Derek, in full. Today. No, Derek whispered. No, they can't. I have assets. You have leased trucks you haven't paid for in 3 months, Sarah said, and you have a warehouse that's leveraged against a crypto wallet that went to zero last week. We checked the public filings, Derek. It's over. He looked at me, his eyes pleading now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by pure terror. Thomas, please. My dad. He built this. Don't let me lose it. Just sign the loads back to me. I'll give you 20%, I swear. I looked at him. I thought about the 30 years I gave his father. I thought about the steering wheel comment. I thought about Mia crying over her utility bill. Your dad built a legacy, I said softly. You built a casino. We're just cashing out. Security, I nodded to the guards. Remove this unauthorized person from the premises. It took 3 weeks for the carcass of Vance Logistics to be picked clean. I didn't want to go to the auction, but Jax insisted. We need spare parts, he said. And honestly, Thomas, you need to see it. You need to see the end of the movie. The auction was held at the old yard. It was a gloomy Tuesday, raining just like the night we planned the exit. The Vance Logistics sign had already been pulled down, leaving a clean, pale rectangle on the brick facade where the sun hadn't touched for 40 years. The yard was full of vultures, other fleet owners, scrap dealers, and bargain hunters. The trucks, the beautiful blue pedal pelts we had driven for years, were lined up with yellow tags on their mirrors. Lot 404, the auctioneer drowned over a loudspeaker. 2018 Kenworth, high mileage, but clean maintenance record. Starting bid at $30,000. That was my truck. My home away from home. 35! A man in a greasy hat shouted. 40! Sarah's voice rang out. I turned to look at her. She was standing with Adrian, holding a bidder number. What are you doing? I hissed. We need a backup unit, she shrugged. And the maintenance records are impeccable. I know the previous driver. He was obsessive. She winked. We bought 3 of the old trucks that day for pennies on the dollar. The bank just wanted to recoup some of the loss. The life twist came out during the lunch break. We were standing near the food truck when we overheard 2 lawyers from the bank talking. I've never seen books cooked like that, one of them said, shaking his head. He didn't just leverage the fleet. He took out personal loans against the fuel cards. Gambling? The other asked. Sports betting? The first lawyer laughed. He put $2 million on a parlay last month. If the Giants had covered the spread, he might have made payroll. They didn't. I looked at Jonathan. He was eating a hot dog, shaking his head. He bet our livelihoods on a football game, Jonathan said, his voice quiet. And he lost, I said. He bet on the wrong team. We watched as Derek's personal car, the Mercedes, was towed away. He wasn't even there. Rumor was he had fled to his mother's house in Florida to hide from the loan sharks. The empire of Vance Logistics didn't end with a bang. It ended with the sound of a gavel and the beep of a tow truck backing up. Let's go, I said to the team. We have a 2:00 p.m. pickup. In the new trucks? Mia asked. No. I smiled, looking at my old Kenworth, now legally owned by Prime Route. I think I'm taking Old Blue today. She just needs a new decal.